Yeah, I need to get some lemonade. Hold on.
Okay, cool. You
Make
gotta
it
do
mine
that.
during the commercial.
Actually, it'll give everyone time to like, get in on the live and stuff. Hello. I'm not gonna lie to you, Jason. That line has always weirded me out.
yeah, Akuchi Moya.
Because it's just like, bro, you cannot expect me to take seriously a Native American phrase. I don't want to say
Another
Indian
language.
or Native American. It'll be another language if you say coochie in there. Like, make that make sense.
How can I get my girl to say Akuchi Moya to me?
Akuchi Moya. It's just like, I feel like that's something a dude would say. That's like saying more coochie.
Right?
And I am so disturbed by that. I am so disturbed. So, yeah. Okay.
All right.
Hey, Marie. All right, let's go.
Oh, you did your hair.
I did. It's down. I had no idea that we were live. You went live before I got back, you jerk.
What?
I didn't even know we were live. I forgot. I have to recap what I just saw.
Here's the thing. No. Now you're backpedaling? No.
No. So here's what happened. Here's what happened. As you were getting up to get the drink, I tried to stop it. And you were halfway up out the chair before when it went live. And I told Jason, you know what? We need people to come in on this live anyway. Like, so let's
that whole conversation we just had was live. I didn't even realize it.
I mean, 0 people were watching, so it's okay. But we were talking about how disturbed I still am to this day with Akuchi Moya from Voyager. I am deeply disturbed by that. I was disturbed when I first heard it. I'm disturbed by it 10 years later. Some years later. Yes. We're not going to do that.
10 for you. It is not 10 for me.
Okay, so since we're talking about I'm not gonna call it years, I'm gonna call it different timelines. Since we are on different timelines, I would like to wish my beautiful sister a lovely happy early birthday here on Truckers Delight.
Happy birthday, Marie.
Thank you.
Marie, happy birthday to you. Ooh,
24 is it?
I love it. Yes.
Happy birthday to you.
Oh my God.
Happy birthday, dear Marie. Happy birthday to you.
I will not be your backup singer.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you too.
And I hope that it is a wonderful birthday as we celebrate all the birthdays with Marie being number one this Virgo season. Following Jason, right. Following Jason on Saturday, following Jermaine on September 14th, and Manny on September 17th. So
he's really a Virgo though. We'll give him Virgo. 17th. Well, he's still Virgo. We'll give him Virgo.
Oh my God.
We have a lot of Virgo.
We have a lot of Virgos.
Let's start
so happy early birthday to Jason as well.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
I am also not going to sing.
Happy 50th. I don't think I'm doing anything. Birthday. I might be going to see a Back to the Future play, Broadway show. I'm not sure.
Okay, that's awesome.
Right.
That is awesome.
All right. So
maybe some archery.
Oh, yeah, for sure. All right. You ready, Marie?
Let's do it.
Yes, let's do this. So, everybody, it's Thursday, which means it's Trekkers Delight time. And we are going to be discussing episodes. I don't happen to remember which number it is, but we are going to be talking about the Devourer of all things, parts 1 and 2, where we get the major big reveal. Woo!
Ah!
So is that you guys that's messing up, or is that me that's messing up?
You sound clear over here.
Yeah. No, the visual was. Never mind. Let's move on.
Right.
Tell me to say it. Tell me to do it. Tell me to do it.
Beautiful being footage.
Yeah.
every other vote.
And you gotta admit, the dude that was coming down the aisle, he was kind of cute. I'd have cared about my vote.
Here we are. Welcome once again to Truckers Delight.
Like, literally, my mic falls down just as we go live. Hi, everybody.
Who you gonna be?
The captain of the Enterprise Z.
Love that baseball and the teacup, like clearly TNG DS9 fans. So.
Man, that we see power rates at some point in this season.
What is going on?
Power rates had shit to do with the power rates.
No, everybody, this is actually one of the main screenwriters for Prodigy, so we are super excited to hear from you. And
No
also,
lesson.
I'm a little embarrassed for being as critical.
Man, I really love that intro.
This was a nice touch.
Every time.
It's
Just every time.
I'm shutting down some things.
All right. So, The Devourer of All Things, parts 1 and 2, which we are just going to refer to as The Devourer at this point, because otherwise we're going to go insane.
Yeah.
Who wants to do the recap? Not it.
My recap would be like 5 sentences.
Like, okay, so we got 2 options. Either we can go through, I will say there's the good news is if I do the recap, it will not be long at all. Because to me, I just remember the basics of what happened. Like just the basics.
All right, well, give us the basics, Will.
Here's the basics. So basically, we find out about halfway through the first half of Devourer of All Things that, and I'm just gonna jump right to it while we still have 4 people watching on this side. Hi. Where did Jason go? Okay, so I don't know what happened. Okay, so I guess it's this connection. But we find out that they follow the signal, they follow the like, find me. It's just so I should have picked up on it with a Beverly Crushers episode in TNG. Like, find me and all this other stuff. I should have known. But I'm not gonna lie, I didn't. I was genuinely surprised that the person that was sending the messages, that was sending the signal, that was sending all the juju to help them find their way, that was giving them the signs and everything and all that jazz, and it was none other than Wesley Will Wheaton Crusher, who acted like Will Wheaton even though his name was Wesley Crusher. I'm gonna say it's giving Will Wheaton from Big Bang Theory, but at least the personality goes, which actually brings to a decent point that Marie has a lot of questions about Wesley's character, which we're going to discuss after this recap.
We'll get into it.
But anyway,
so they find that it's Will Wheaton they find that it's Wesley. They find out that it's Wesley the whole time. They don't know who he is. They don't know that he's the first Prodigy, or that we've seen on track. So next thing you know, these tentacle-like beings that are just like that look like the mechanical octopuses from the Matrix movies.
I was about to say, did anybody else have Matrix flashbacks? Because
I was like, bro, this is the Matrix. Are you serious right now?
I was like, it's a cross between the Matrix and a Beholder.
Right. And I was just like, oh, they look kind of pretty and pink and purple. And then
they eat your face.
They eat your face, and apparently if they touch you, you are not only dead, you are completely erased from that particular timeline, which sucks. It sucks. That means, and we've seen this because it happened a couple of times, what happens when you're erasing the timeline? They don't say, oh, he's dead. No, they don't even remember you were ever there.
Nope.
That's right.
Which I feel like is a paradox within of itself, but we're going to get into that later. So because like you're kind of creating new timelines by doing that. But anyway, that's another. So they start. They go to this temple-like structure on this desert planet. And
everybody, the word of the episode is ziggurat.
This ziggurat, a word that I have not used since I was in high school. So. Yeah, please don't kill me, Marie. I'm sorry for that. I feel bad now. Okay, we get to the ziggurat. Nice, beautiful structures. The loom finds them. Okay, Wesley takes the crew, the young ones, and Prodigy crew, and they have to hide
like he hides them in Gary Seven's office.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here going like, wait a minute. It's like, what? First of all, I'm looking at the timeline of this office, and I'm going like, is this supposed to be Roddenberry's office? Like
in a minute, like Mad Men is gonna come out, like a black cat's gonna wander by. Like, I mean, the whole thing. Yeah.
And he's gone again. I guess the loom got him. So, but you know, that would suck. Oh wait, Jason, who's Jason? What happened? Anyway, he'll be back. Oh, speak of the devil. So. There he is. So, okay, we're glad you're back. The loom didn't get you. So,
the loom didn't get you.
It didn't get you. Okay, cool. But they literally hide in between places. It's just like while the Matrix little things get them, they hide in their own Matrix in between spaces in this 1960s office. Like, and so
they
still got found. Meanwhile, B plot that connects to the A plot. Majel. From what I remember in this part of the story, and correct me if I miss anything, Marie, please, is that she's basically finding him because they picking up from the last episode, they realize, okay, these are holograms that are on Voyager.
Right.
Okay. They played us. And we know that even though the ship is destroyed, they are very much alive. Okay. I don't know how they found out they were alive, but they're alive. Okay. Majel goes out of her way and says, you know what? I'm going to find them, and does. And goes to said ziggurat with the first officer, who's the Andorian, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. And I am so glad that, and even though the loom was just chasing him all over and over, and if I'm not mistaken, I think that they brought a red shirt with them, and the red shirt got the short end of the stick.
That's how they figure out that, like, you get eaten and then you get eaten from existence, because the red shirt gets eaten and Tysus is just like, ah! And he goes,
right,
ensign blah 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 is missing, and everyone's like, who?
Like, who is that?
Like, ensign? The ensign that went down with us, who sacrificed their life, blah blah blah, and they were like, what? And then that's when Tysus like cops to it, because again, Prodigy doesn't ask us to assume that you're stupid.
Right,
which I love.
Right, which is, I love that too. Again, that brings up questions that I have about why are y'all doing this? If they're destroying the timeline, why are you? Never mind.
But we'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Ziggurat.
We'll get there. Ziggurat.
There's a computer core in the middle of the ziggurat, right?
Yes.
And what Wesley actually has to do is get it all activated and set up so that he can send our favorite prodigies to where they need to go, which is theoretically where the Protostar and Captain Chakotay are located. Because remember, Wesley's whole goal is to save this timeline. And the reason he's saving this timeline, he tells us pretty bluntly, is his mom lives here. So,
and
I mean, of the Mother's Day gifts you could get, like,
I mean, that's the ultimate. The ultimate Mother's Day gift is just like, hey, you gave me life, so I'm gonna return the favor. So,
right.
But
and this is when we find out that all of the other travelers, excuse me, hello COVID, all of the other travelers have basically said, all right, we're done. We're gonna let the loom eat this. Go have fun with that. And that's when Wesley is like, I found one way.
It's always one way out of an infinite amount of ways, right?
I mean,
what Wesley is doing is Wesley basically holds off between Wesley and Janeway, because Janeway being Janeway, is going to fly a shuttle into some loom face, because she's Janeway. Basically hold off the loom long enough that we can actually send all of them, including Majel, where they need to go. And
because
after
Wesley said all 6 of them had to stay together, and that wasn't working out for some reason. And then he figured out, oh no, it's 7.
It was 7.
It's 7
because
Majel also
7.
has to be there.
Yep, 7 is the number of completion. Yep,
it's a divine number.
Yep, and they made that happen. So
basically, they basically tell Janeway that this is what they're going to go do, and this is the only way it's going to work. And Wesley Crusher is just kind of like, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Also, is it in this episode or a subsequent episode where Janeway calls his mom?
Not this episode. I don't think
Okay.
she calls his mom.
No, that's not this one. It's
She
not
talks
this
to
one.
Jellicoe.
So
yes,
yeah,
Jellicoe.
because remember, Voyager's not supposed to be there, and basically, Jellicoe has put the kibosh on any further missions for Voyager in this area, and is requiring Janeway to return to Earth. And Janeway and Tysus are all like, "Yeah, no,
Not having it.
no,
Right.
peace, love, and rockets."
Tuck your shirt in and never leave
Right.
school behind.
Right.
Right.
But anyway, so the episode ends with all of our lovely prodigies having beamed to a mysterious planet where we see a certain person staring forlornly.
Marie, what do we
into
see on the
distance.
planet? Who do we see on the planet?
I don't know. Could it possibly be
Perhaps.
Chakotay?
Oh my God. Chakotay? Oh my God.
Akuchimoy.
Can it be? Do not, God, I hate that. Okay, for those that are watching, Akuchimoy is this phrase in this different language, that means, I don't know, find your way. I don't know.
Some type of American Indian because they would like us to follow that culture.
I'm pretty convinced that it was completely made up.
Probably.
It was definitely made up. Because by that point, they're not even... Anyway, yeah, again. So basically, Janeway is apprehensive about letting this Prodigy crew even go. Like, no.
Well,
say, no, I'm not doing this.
Get into trouble.
But she 100% lets it happen. And that, I think, is one of the great things... One of the really great things about Janeway this entire period has been she never really treats them exactly like children. Like, she very much recognizes... that they have experience,
right?
That they've had to make sacrifices. They've had to do all of these things, and so she doesn't exactly treat them like adults, but she doesn't actually like coddle them either, right? Like, I mean, there's no real sense of I'm going to shove these kids into the padded room so that they'll be safe.
Right.
No,
she's also listening to what Wesley is telling her because she knows she's out of her element sort of deal when it comes to timelines and everything, which she hates. And I think she listens to what he says, and he's like, dude, this is what's got to happen. She understands that something chaotic is happening, that space is probably erasing, her timeline's erasing.
I mean, it's very hard to ignore.
Right.
I mean, she's literally wandering around with a BFG.
Right.
In true Janeway fashion.
And she's been through the rafters. She may not remember Year of Hail, but she has been through the rafters of time travel anyway. So yeah. So there's that.
Oh yeah, she wouldn't remember Year of Hail.
No, she wouldn't have.
No, she wouldn't.
No one of.
But I also think it's very important to point out again that Janeway is trusting the kids, right? Like, she's trusting them with something that they can do. And that's one of the great things about Prodigy, right? Is Prodigy has never, like, even though it is written about children and ostensibly for children, it respects them as people.
Right.
It respects the viewership, and it also respects its characters. And that's not always true when you're watching kid media.
Well, like Avatar. Well, who knew the doll was going to stick his face into the beam of tomorrow and see his future?
Like, I mean, who didn't know that was going to happen?
Yeah, right. Who didn't know? That's what I wanted. As soon as Wesley Crusher said that, I think everybody was like, "Oh, we all know who's going to stick their face in there."
Yeah, don't look. Like, Dal is the poster child for I looked when I shouldn't.
Right.
But I want to go back to this because, you know, if seasons 1 and 2 were so very much about like what happens when your parents fail you, because that was a lot of what we saw in those episodes. I mean, first it was the Diviner, then it was Starfleet, then it was also Dal's adoptive parent.
If you think about it, yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, there were all these adults in their lives that didn't trust them and, didn't, made all these decisions for them and didn't listen to them. And so now we had holographic Janeway, right, who was very much teaching them how to be adults, but also expected them to be adults. And now we've got that. And now we've actually got that with real Janeway. And it's so kind of refreshing, actually, to see this beautiful relationship evolving between these characters, because this is really the first time we've had to deal with actual Janeway.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw her in season 2, right? When they were kind of running around. Or is this season 2? I don't even know.
Not like
because season 1 was weirdly bifurcated. So like there's season 1A, season 1B, and then there's when we get to Starfleet finally.
Right.
So in my head, it's seasons 1, 2, and 3. Like, which I'm sure that's not how it's designated in canon, but here we are. But that's what I mean when I say seasons 1 and season 2.
Right.
That's how I feel about it too. That's how it feels to me as well.
Right. So like there's this whole conversation that's going on about like how do you trust your adults and how do you sort of navigate that? And now we have this adult who's being fantastic, right? Because so much of kid media is about, does feature these sort of like these kids going and doing crazy things, but it's always in secret. It's always you can't let your parents know or they're going to stop the adventure.
Well, that's all of Disney.
That's my point. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I think that really lets Prodigy stand out on its own, is that we don't have that weird sort of distrust of adult figures. We're actually working with the adult figures to accomplish what we need to accomplish, at least in this season. And I'm very much here for it, because it feels very much appropriate of Janeway, and it feels very appropriate to the capacities that have been demonstrated by Dal and Gwen and everybody else.
I think,
and it also says you can, and it also creates this kind of trust with the adult figures in your life. There's not this assumption that you can't trust them.
Mm-hmm. Because it's like what was interesting between what you both said. Whereas with other Disney movies or shows, these kids that are going off on these adventures, or serious adventures, I'm neglecting a lot of training, and a lot of backstory with them. They don't really have actual experience,
right?
So it's kind of and I'm gonna loop it around. Whereas this Prodigy crew does. Now I'm not taking away from the loss of any parents or tragic events, things of that nature. But we have an entire year's worth of experiences with this Prodigy crew, that they actually got off the planet, for starters. So let's just call that their backstory. And then they went through these insane missions. So to Marie's point, yeah, I'm kind of glad that they do have a level of autonomy where they're like, okay, hey, Janeway can actually objectively see. They have actually been through a number of things. I believe that not only have I been through the raptors of time travel, so I'm inclined to believe that what Wesley says holds some amount of water. But I'm also back behind that. Yeah, they actually been through steps that they probably could. Just like they brought Prodigy, the Protostar in the first place. Yeah. I think, yeah, let them go.
Well, the first season was kind of them staying away from the adults.
Yes.
Right, staying away from.
Well,
Starfleet.
I thought the whole point was to take the ship back to Starfleet. Was what they were trying to do.
Well, at first.
Right. But I also think that, not to interrupt Jason here, but I think Starfleet at that particular point is an abstract.
Right. Because it's not about Starfleet.
It is, but it's also not at the same time. It's about getting back. It's about getting back to Starfleet and, getting to participate in this institution that's bigger than they are. But as we've seen, especially in this season, living the Starfleet life isn't always everything it's cracked up to be.
What?
They still have to figure out where they fit. They still have to find a place in that and to figure out exactly where it is. And Dal especially has been struggling with that all season. And now he really does have something to sort of sink his proverbial teeth into, and is doing what he can. It is very much doing what he can.
Mm-hmm.
We also see some really important. We're starting to see some really, really important character development coming for Dal in this episode, and certainly in the episodes that follow. That's going to determine the trajectory that Dal is going to be on, because Dal's narrative is changing.
Yes.
Well,
Speaking-
especially
speaking
now,
of
now he's seen his possible future, and he doesn't like that at all.
Right. But he's seen that.
He's gonna
And
start questioning his purpose because he kind of always felt like that was going to be his purpose.
Yay, he's having
Right.
a Christopher Pike moment.
right, but I mean, what I love is that we're starting to ask that question, right? Which is, what is what if your life doesn't look the way you thought it was going to look?
Well, that's the human experience.
Exactly. And that's kind of where we're starting to see Dal kind of figuring out where he's going. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that sort of that begins to play out.
Michelle is definitely now she's definitely a part of the team. Like 3 episodes ago, she was like, "I'm not eating with you guys in the lunchroom. You guys
have cooties or the
Right.
Vulcan equivalent thereof.
You guys are the Breakfast Club. I'm not eating with you." But now she's like, sacrificing herself.
Ooh, you went there.
Yeah, the breath hacks.
So honestly, just it's a little off topic, but kind of on topic. I'm glad that they added Magellan because now it's like 100% even, gender wise. You got
Mhm.
you got three males, 3 females, 1 non-binary. So it's kind of like, well, you got complete 7. Non-binary being 0, which, yeah.
Well,
so
I mean, yeah, they are what they are,
They
right?
They are what they. Yeah,
They're not even.
Okay.
I mean, they're corporeal for the moment.
I mean, for the moment, like we have a character named 0, and then after that we have a character named 1. Like so, so I'm kind of searching through my mind. Okay, do we have 2, 3, and 4 anywhere in Star Trek?
Right? 4, 3.
Oh, we have 7.
We got Trip. That's
Trip Tucker the third.
He's number 3. Okay.
Every Trek fan's favorite Florida man.
But I will say, they really did. They really made him a Florida man. But so I
didn't even notice like the balance of genders like at all.
Well, I mean, you gotta. I mean, I don't know if this is the reason. I was skeptic at first of Magellan's character. Like, why are you here? Like, are they? Because it makes me think that if you're gonna add someone, they're gonna take someone away, and I don't like that.
I don't
like,
see them
especially
doing
when
that.
it comes to it. But right, I don't see them doing that now. So, but that was just a fear that I had.
But Zero's gonna die because Zero left
Yeah,
the planet.
Oh, Zero ain't gonna die. Like he might.
I mean,
have
you're
walked.
right. I mean, the body is going to become
Yeah.
decrepit, but like
Right. Yeah.
But there's nothing
they're
indicating that Zero is going to pass on to it.
Will we get like a Saru scene where Zero's laying on the bed? It's like, I got my shirt off. Stay with me.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm not gonna go there with you. I'm not gonna
Saru
go
was
there.
dying.
I'm not gonna do this.
All right.
Basically, I'm very glad that I'm here for this because it's not that I'm not glad for the other episodes that we do, but Devourer of All Things Part 2 remains my first favorite of this season, which without spoiling the rest of the show, and this is where Marie we can have the discussion, So my favorite part being now season 3 of Picard, I asked the questions or laid out what I argued, or not argued, but said every Trek character in the season 3 of Picard had their moment. They had their moment. Like you saw Deanna take the ship and not crash it, and there's a deleted scene where Geordi says you crashed it twice, and she said 3rd time's a charm. So I'm like, yeah, that's Deanna. She has a moment. She has her moment. Data has his moment as he flies the Enterprise into the Death Star. That's his moment.
First of all, the idea that thing was so big that she's flying an Enterprise through it.
If that's not a nod at Star Wars to say that Star Trek ain't better, I don't know what is.
That ship is way bigger than the Millennium Falcon. Like,
yes.
And if you look at it, the cube was like a combination of like 20 cubes. That's how big it was.
All right. Back to your
Anyway,
sorry.
So basically, I
don't want beef with the mouse, guys. I don't.
Right.
We're not going to talk about that other Star franchise.
Yeah, we're not going to it. So season 2 of Picard, we see Wesley in person for one scene, which is like a cameo. Is a cameo, and we get it because it's not about him. It's not about his character. We understand that.
but he was there.
Right.
Okay.
Where
All
he
right.
becomes Traveler Jesus and invites
Assignment 1 Earth or something like that.
yeah, like he becomes Traveler
Yeah.
Jesus and invites Issa Briones' character to go
Yeah,
along with
which
him.
I don't know how they're gonna do that, but hey, work it out. So seeing Wesley and Prodigy for me is like, oh, there's a dog. Who has a dog? That's so cute.
That's
Okay,
Jason's
that's
dog.
Yeah, it's Jason dog. Okay, that's right. You don't have a. Okay, yeah. You have a
One
cat.
second.
So right. So
I have 2 extremely fat cats.
fat cats. So what I'm saying is, I feel like Wesley had his moment. Now it's not his show, but it's his moment because to me, he was the first Prodigy that we've seen on Star Trek. He was 14 when I believe he was 14 in Encounter at Farpoint when he sat in the chair. So I think he was 14, and then 17 when he became an activist. So to me, he's just like, oh my God, this is really cool. And he's like, Janeway thinks that she's about to go, and Wesley was like, hey, see you on the other side. And she's like, huh? And then sends her back to Voyager, all in uniform, which I think was badass, by the way. Like she had her uniform back on. She's like, Wesley's like, I'm not gonna send you in your iconic tank top. Like,
I know, right? I know.
It's great to see you again. That's great. Like that's really cool.
Well,
like,
she never met him.
She never met him. That's right. They never really met. She knows of him.
Yep.
And she definitely knows his mother. But
Sort of.
Because in a way, yeah, sort of, yeah. So he had his moment, and then he's just like, die, and then yeah. And so I thought I cried. I'm not gonna lie, I cried because I was just like,
yeah, no. Yeah! I mean, he manages to use the Force.
Okay, but you had thoughts, Marie. You had thoughts. Like,
I do. I do, and I don't.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of makes sense to have Wesley here. It does. I just need him to make sense,
right?
And I worry a little bit that this felt very much like a. Do you remember how mad the fandom was back when Discovery hinted that we were going to meet Spock finally, and everyone's like, "Oh, right. This is fan service," like blah 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 blah. And so I was a little concerned actually when Wesley Crusher popped up that's what we were going to end up with.
Right.
I have real questions though about what's going on with Wesley Crusher though, because he seems.
I'm just gonna do this.
Yeah. Like he seems remarkably less together than I would have expected. Now, granted, I say this as someone who is turning a certain age tomorrow, and I am still a hot mess. But yeah. I'm a little concerned. I don't know. I'm a little concerned with Crusher's sort of capacity in this particular point. And some of it I think is because he's thinking too fast and he's trying to juggle too many different variables. And some of it is just we also sort of have to going back to one of the conversations that we've had about Prodigy is that it infrequently hamstrings a character in order to serve the story. I'm a little concerned that that's kind of what was going on with Wesley, is that he gets a little hamstrung because otherwise he's just too powerful. Well, because dude's rocking some mage level crazy.
Like you said, I think he's got a lot going on. Like he's got a lot of timelines in his head, a lot of calculations in his head. I kind of like the idea of him being in here in the show, even though he does seem more like Will Wheaton than he does like Wesley Crusher.
Right.
Because Wesley Crusher has been through a lot. We assume since he left season 7.
Because the last time we see Wesley in uniform was Nemesis, and that was like a cameo appearance and a deleted scene.
We don't know if that was. It's weird because you don't really know if that was the Wesley that left the Enterprise. You don't know
he can only leave the Enterprise one time.
There was no inkling that he was a traveler in that movie.
Right, and that's very much an interesting thing because it's been very clear, certainly in Picard, where he is. He's Traveler Jesus, right. That he is a traveler and that he is doing other things. And even later we'll get a conversation with his mother where she's just like, well, I wish he had time to visit, which fair. So I think that's kind of part of the issue, is coming up with some sort of way to balance the power of the Loom versus the power of Wesley Crusher.
But that's kind of a equal nemesis to have, is somebody that's eating time, stopping time, and eating timelines, right?
Right, but I mean, he tells us that he can become overwhelmed. But I mean, it's very hard to, because the thing about it is this: like, you've got to have something that's enough of a threat to Wesley that's credible, but that is also going to be one that can credibly be defeated by our Prodigy kids.
Right.
Does that make sense?
I mean,
the only way that he defeats them is by having them do what they're supposed to do, not by him.
Well, because he arguably, like Strange, he does know what needs to happen specifically in order for it to happen. And this isn't the first time that Wesley has to save the whole ship by giving a creative solution, right?
Right. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about from a drafting perspective, like, right. Because when we're trying to come up with like threat assessment, it has to be hard. The threats have to be significant enough that we believe that they are a threat to Wesley when we're watching this, right? That's where the tension's coming from.
It's the fault
in both of these episodes. It's the Loom hanging around in the background, eating things that's what's ramping up the tension, right? But we've got to be careful when we're balancing the level of threat, so that yes, it's a danger to Wesley, but it's also not going to be an insurmountable threat. Like, there's no consensus here or even sense that we can't come up with a way to fix the universe. Like, there's never a moment in Prodigy where hope is lost.
Well,
you see what I mean?
Okay.
So creating that kind of tension, story tension, and still maintaining a believable pacing is incredibly difficult, especially when you do have somebody like Wesley Crusher in play. Because at this point, Wesley's a MacGuffin.
So, question. Well, we know without spoilers, we know that essentially it's just one big elaborate way to connect us to the Picard show.
I don't know about the Picard show, but
well, given what we know happens later on. But
I think it's precious you're assuming we know, because I don't.
So there's two things. One end is just an excuse to connect it to the other Star Trek shows. Okay, by bringing Wesley on and doing this and the third. Great, we love that. Trekkies and Trekkers love that. That's great. But on the flip side, it's just like, how do you, in a way, justify squeezing in this one of our iconic young characters, which I say young because he's the same age as Marie. So
ouch. Is he? Like, hold on.
Yeah, y'all are the same age. Actually, no, he's actually significantly older now that I think about it.
Yeah. No, thanks. Thanks.
See,
I don't know how it is.
You gave me 10 extra years.
Oh, I mean, like
he's Jason's age.
He's 50?
He's 52.
No.
Well, you're not actually
computer.
seeing him.
How old is Will Wheaton?
Will Wheaton is 52 years old.
There you go.
Y'all heard him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that's what I said, yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, 52. Okay, so 10 years older than Marie. Got it. Okay. I'm going to say 20 years older than Marie.
I love you.
I love you more. Because I feel Squidward judging the hell out of me right now.
Right. Yeah, and so that's kind of, yes. I think you're right. I think that's also a great way to sort of ground Prodigy into Trek canon, except we've already done that with Janeway.
Right.
And Chakotay. So I don't really know that we necessarily need Wesley here. it's nice to see a show that is trying to come up with a way to take this character who is an interesting resource that's kind of floating around, and Will Wheaton certainly has come back and is participating in things like the Ready Room.
I said that before, and he could have been in so many other franchises.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Wes isn't limited by time and space anymore. I mean, he theoretically could show up on Pike's Enterprise.
Yeah, he could. He's traveled more than Bosch.
Mm-hmm. So, Paramount, everybody, just floating that out there. I would really love to see Daddy Captain with the hair versus the Wunderkind.
But we have the same issue with like Q, right? With you're saying that you have to find something to match what can go up against Wesley
So the
Crusher.
thing
We have
is,
the same thing with Q.
it's a little bit different, and the reason it's a little bit different is because Q is very much an anti-hero. Like Q has already been established to be this kind of capricious god.
His only nemesis was ever other Q.
Right. Right. He goes into, like, every episode he goes into, he knows he is more like he could blink them out of existence. He just chooses not to.
Oh, where's the fun in that?
Exactly. And that's why Q's presence itself isn't actually so much like a tension creator, as it is, as it is a different type of plot driver.
But in Voyager, though, it was kind of, they gave him a few different arcs to wrestle with fatherhood and the Civil War, the rebellion, all those sort of things.
I do, in fact, remember the hoop skirts. Of course, I remember the hoop skirts.
The hoop skirts.
Let me show you on the doll my trauma. Or where are Keith's nacelles? Where are Keith's nacelles?
My thing is that the looms seem to be only after Gwen, and not really eating the timeline.
I mean, they were chomping pretty seriously in the Devourer of all things. We lost a number of folks,
but they're just along the way on their way.
Yeah, I suspect we're going to see. I suspect we're going to see, because I have actually seen a couple episodes hence, where we are going to see the loom as a more realistic threat.
Right. Yeah. Because I'm sorry, I didn't want to. Hope I didn't spoil anything more.
No. So we are going to see the loom represented as a more realistic threat, and that's actually a really fun episode. But what we're really getting in the Devourer of all things is a jump start for that. Because remember, up until this point, this is really where like the story kind of bifurcates a little, because up until this point, the real antagonist of the show has been Essentia, or old Essentia.
Oh wow, this is the same show.
I know, right?
No, this show's, it's so long that they have so many stories going on. It's actually
right. And I suspect we're going to see, I expect to see very much a Nexus start, like various Nexuses. I don't know. Pick your plural.
Nexus. No.
Nexi. I guess Nexi is like plural.
I don't know. Excuse me. But I do think we're going to see various Nexus points evolve, where these particular plot lines weave in and out of each other. Because remember, we still have that issue, right? I mean, Essentia is back on Solum, planning to create some sort of war.
Yep.
Can I ask a question about that, Marie? Speaking of Solum, would you consider, and I know each show there's an A plot, a B plot, and a potential C plot that sometimes mix and molds together. It just depends on the episode. But for the overarching season so far that we have, would you call the events of Solum like the B plot of the entire show? Because I completely forgot about what's her name? Jason, you just said her name. Lord help me.
Essentia?
Essentia until I saw her face. I was like,
until this point, Essentia has been the A plot, because every single step that they're making until this point really had been about rescuing Solom and trying to understand. In fact, remember, like that's why Jellicoe has said that the Voyager's not allowed to go anywhere, because they can't risk losing Voyager because there's some proverbial Ijnit going down on Solom, and we are looking at some possible issues.
Yeah,
right. And this is also a little bit where like I'm kind of getting like I may be getting my timelines a little confused because I definitely like we have not yet had an actual move of aggression from Essentia, but there is for sure some craziness going down that they're concerned about with the Valnicott.
We've stepped away from that story for a while. That's why. I mean, it could be happening and we just haven't seen it because
this is the part where I'm going to be quiet.
There's so much other shit happening right now. It's like,
yeah, what was the last? I mean, the last time we saw Solom was when they went to rescue Gwen.
Yes, that's when they went to rescue Gwen. And I'm gonna say, I'm gonna be quiet on this part because then I'd be spoiling it. So I'm just full.
So like Essentia has for sure, like, but we know there's like Gwen loses to Essentia, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so with that happening, that means that Essentia is now looking at being a political mover and shaker on Solom because she's now proven herself to be more Valnicott than the Valnicott.
Right. I mean, technically, the whole show's about Gwen.
Yes.
From beginning.
I will say, because it's just like, even though Dahl was like very annoying in the first 2 episodes, like
he was so him.
Jesus Christ!
It's like, bro, you learn anything from the first 2 seasons?
I'm sitting here going like, read the Spark Notes.
Even like, Rock was like, what are you doing?
Right.
I'm not a part of this.
But I think that's really, really important to where Dal is going.
Am I breaking out, y'all?
No. But I do think as obnoxious as he was and kind of just an absolute teenage boy that he was.
Yeah, they are teenagers now. Yeah.
That factors into where I think Dal is going.
Yeah, the annoying teenager that won't
right,
do their
but he's definitely shifting away from being the annoying teenager. Like he's definitely starting to show real empathy.
Yes.
That's why Dal's the one who rescues Majel.
Yeah.
Because Wes is not going to do anything. Like Wes is going to let her get eaten by the loom. He's going to feel bad about it, but he's not going to risk letting the loom know where they are inside the ziggurat, right?
He would have been wrong because he miscalculated.
Yes, but at that particular point, like he has no idea. I mean, I'm talking when they're hanging out in Gary Seven's office and we've all been mesmerized by the lava lamp.
And Dahlin goes and gets Majel before she gets erased from existence.
Yeah. Dal's the one who opens that opens that gate or opens that portal and drops her into Zero's arms. That's what's going on. Because we're very much starting to see Dal. I mean, Dal had always had empathy, and it would just show itself in fits and spurts. But now we're starting to get a much more considered character, and some of that I think has to do with certainly the events of the race.
That was your favorite episode before, right? Fast and the Curious.
That was my first favorite episode, and my second favorite episode is Devourer of All Things Part 2.
And I think and I think it's going to be really interesting to kind of watch how Dal reacts to Chakotay.
Yeah. Why? You think he's going to feel responsible?
I think Dal does feel responsible a little bit because remember, it was kind of Dal's screw up that let Chakotay end up wherever he ended up.
Yep. 10 years.
But he doesn't know that yet. But he doesn't know that. Right. But I think there's some of that involved. I also think it's going to be really interesting to see Chakotay because Chakotay is one of those characters that we've seen come from being first officer to now we're kind of getting the opportunity to see him in command. And I kind of wonder if we're going to start to see, especially since we've seen Dal ceding the chair to Gwen. in the premonition.
Yes.
I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation that Chakotay is going to have with Dal, because we got to see Chakotay as number one.
Mm-hmm.
And there was never really any sense that he was somehow lesser than Janeway, ever. It was really just we have different roles and we're doing different things.
Right.
And I think that's a really interesting kind of model for Dal to get a chance to see.
Mm.
Because Dal, I think Dal is coming into the idea that maybe he's got some maturing to do.
They're like, yes. Because given the premonition, it's, and I don't want to say that he's being selfish because he's a child. He's like 13. And so it's just like, you're going to think whatever you're going to think when puberty hits. And given that he's a mixture of 13 different species, he can think whatever the hell he wants to say. But because I don't know. Like,
there's a whole lot going on there, is what we're going to say.
There's a whole lot going on
there.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the maturity and the growth that he has showed, that since episode 3 and 2, he has not really made it about him. Ish. He has not. He's not.
Right.
If anything, that the show is predominantly about Gwen. Predominantly.
Yep.
But Dahl did not try to make it about him. Whereas
he did.
Yeah.
He did at
He
first.
did at the beginning.
Right. In the very
But
beginning.
now he's trying to save Gwen, and she's his priority.
That's right. Because all he cares about is she alive.
Right.
Developing a little feeling.
Even they wanted to they go somewhere, and he's like, nope, we got to go save Gwen. We can't go there. Oh, when they wanted to take Zero to the planet.
Well, they're too young to explore right now. They're too young to explore this season, which I'm so glad they didn't do. But Dahl is developing a little bit of feeling for Gwen, just a hair.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
dude, that's old news. That is old news.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm just glad that they didn't act on it.
They kissed before she went to Solom.
Well, yeah, it's somebody. I know, kiss the girl, but I'm just glad that they didn't try to make it about that.
No,
because that's. Go ahead.
I think what we're actually starting to see is Dahl recognizing that everybody has different things to offer, and he's getting a much better sense of how things move synergistically. And that doesn't necessarily mean that he needs to be in charge in quite the same way, say, Gwen does. Because he doesn't have the background Gwen does. I mean, the diviner, for all of his faults, spared no expense. If I can make a Jurassic Park reference. in educating Gwen and training Gwen to be what she needs to be. And what Dal is starting to learn is that he has his own worth. There are things he's bringing to the table.
Right.
And that doesn't necessarily have to mean that he's in charge, because there are better people and people who have more experience and whatever. He's learning a different way, I think, to find his space within the hierarchy.
Yeah, but whatever he thought is suddenly thrown out the window.
Right. And I think he's coming to terms with the fact that that's not necessarily a bad thing. And it's not even necessarily, and the other thing is I think in his head at this particular point, because, at 16, 17, we tend to catastrophize everything, right? Like, right. I mean, everything is so much more a thing, right? Like a disaster. I watched this with my 6-year-olds, right? Like, if I don't get what I want right now, the world is ending.
Mm-hmm.
And Dal is moving, I think, a little bit from that kind of mindset where everything's a catastrophe to recognizing that, maybe he's not going to be captain immediately.
At least not right now. Yeah, not
and
right now.
I think that's the issue, right? Like, I mean, that's a really mature viewpoint to develop. Is to sit back and be patient and, do the training, learn the things you need to learn, do the growing you need to grow you need to do as a person.
Right.
And so we've got a very different Dal. We have a Dal who sat down and wrote and read Temporal Mechanics 101. Finally.
Because he had to. He realized, okay, this is what I got to do.
Yeah, but just because he realized that this is what he had to do doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to do it. How many times have we encountered a person in our travels that knew what they had to do and didn't do it anyway? How many times?
Twice.
I lost fucking count. They come up with an excuse, right? Like, and I've done it. Absolutely, right? Like, I've done it. There are things that I knew I needed to do, and I just didn't do them. I blew them off, and I made excuses, and then eventually I had to turn around and come back and be like, "All right, so no, I am not going to make excuses. I'm going to take accountability for that."
Right.
And I think that's kind of the cycle that Dal's currently in, and I think it's a really great thing to watch.
Yeah, because it's like, if you think about it, other than hologram Janeway, he doesn't really have parents.
No.
Nope.
And so he really is, and it's sad to say for me to put it like this, but he's kind of behind on the learning curve a little bit.
Yes.
Like,
absolutely.
What he's learning literally with his friends that he's probably calls his family at this point. And then is still technically getting to know Admiral Janeway after being chased in the second half of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
now they got to get to know her all over again. Oh, well, never mind.
It's just like, even when that one time that they switched bodies, that was it. It's just like it never happened. But
they switched bodies, but that didn't really. But Dal never really kind of looked at that as an opportunity to get a different perspective. And in all fairness, he didn't really have time.
Yeah, there was no time. Yeah.
Right. No, we were too busy basically too busy trying to get everybody where they needed to go so that we didn't destroy Starfleet.
Right. Essentially, which rest in peace to the Enterprise E. So, yeah, ish.
So,
but yeah.
There's a lot. We talk a lot about like the moving parts that are going on, and there are a lot of moving parts, but I have just an incredible amount of faith that all of those moving parts are eventually going to weave back together into a solid cohesive narrative.
Even Wesley Crusher?
Yeah. Even Wesley Crusher.
I kind of
even Wesley Crusher.
I like they brought him in the show. I like that they gave him something to do.
I will say that I like where they go.
I really hope that we come up with a good way to use him, and I'll be interested to see how they balance the power creep in the episodes. But that is clearly going to be question for next week us.
Which would be Last Flight of the Protostar, Part 1 and Part 2.
Mm-hmm. Got a lot of two-parters in the second half of this season.
It's like Enterprise Season 4.
Yep. We finally find Chakotay, and we're going to find out if Chakotay is who we thought he was.
Or we thought he was. Or they thought he was.
But
get ready. That's all I gotta say.
Right.
Right, because these episodes are only 24 minutes long, so
right.
2 of them.
Oh yeah,
and we are for sure going to get what I think is one of my favorite metaphors in the entire series, as much as I've seen.
Right.
What's that?
Well, that's for next week now, isn't it?
I guess it is.
And we actually made it on time.
Even one more.
I know. All right. Like, comment, share, and subscribe if you want to come along with us as we discuss the back half of Prodigy's second season. Bean footage?
Guys.
Wait, Jason, on a scale of 1 to 10, how serious are you being right now? I gotta know.
I'm serious, dude. You got
like 10 out of 10 serious, or picking on Michael serious? Which one?
There is no temperature in space. It's not cold.
What are you serious?
Okay, wait.
Who is somebody? Oh dear God! It just got
because you said his name.
Welcome to the party, Michael.
No, that is not how we're going to end the episode, because Keith actually has like a legitimate news update. He knows shit, and we should possibly like convey that knowledge.
That's my favorite line. He knows shit.
It's just like a black and red mound. It's like,
why are you describing yourself?
What the hell?
Hello from
Hey, Virgil.
Hey,
Hey, Virgil.
welcome.
Hello, Virgil. Welcome. Who are you?
Who?